featuring our newest addition to the direct portfolio, Stratus. My name is Virginia Rogers, and I'm one of the ZOS Customer Success Managers here at 21CS. And in my role, I focus on building strong partnerships with our customers, help to bring educational content like this webinar to our mainframe community, and I ensure that our customers are getting the most value out of our software solutions. And I'm fortunate to be joined today by Josh Stiles, Senior Solutions Architect at 21CS, who will be walking us through the main features and use cases of Stratus. We're also excited to have Dan Snyder with us. He's a software engineer, a member of the Stratus development team, and most importantly, he's a principal co-founder of Stratus. So Dan will be conducting a live Stratus demo a little later in the session for us. We do have the Q&A box open during the call. So if any questions come to mind during the presentation, please feel free to drop them in there. We will address as many as we can during the webinar. And for anything we don't have time to get to, we'll be sure to follow up with you afterward via email. And we again just want to thank you. We're so glad you've chosen to spend a part of your day with us to learn how Stratus can help your organization achieve seamless data transfer between your mainframe and any cloud provider while maintaining the referential integrity of the data and simultaneously solving common mainframe storage challenges. So while we wait for everyone to join, we do have a few quick poll questions to get things started and get those Thursday morning gears turning. These questions are just going to help us kind of get a better sense of where everyone is in their hybrid cloud journey. So with that, we have our first question, which is, what part of the world are you joining us from today? We had a chance to meet a lot of you at Tech Exchange in Orlando from all over the globe. So we appreciate you stopping by our booth. It was great to meet so many of you. Give everyone a minute to answer. And then we can move on to our second question, which is, oh, here we go. Lots from North America. Thank you all for joining. So our second question is, how far? Oh, is it coming up? All right. Jen, do we have that second question coming up? There we go. Perfect. How far are you in implementing your hybrid cloud strategy? Maybe your company has a hybrid cloud initiative and that's why you're joining today. Maybe you're thinking about it. Maybe that's not part of your role. We'd love to know what your status is in this journey. Give everyone a few seconds to answer that. All right. Perfect. Got some people thinking about it. Some people already started. And if you have no idea, you are in the right place. We will help educate you today. And we will bring up our third question. All right. How much ML2 data do you have in your environment? Petabytes, terabytes, gigabytes? If you're not sure, don't worry. We will highlight a resource today later in the session that can actually help you identify this information. All right. Let's see. All right, a lot of petabytes. That's good to see. And then as a follow-up to the ML2 concept, we want to ask one last question, which is, how old is the oldest data set in your ML2 environment? And again, if you're not certain, we will be able to help identify that information as well. And we'll touch on that a little later in the webinar. And we appreciate you guys answering these questions. It gives us a great baseline just for where everyone is in their journey. Okay. Let's see. Too old to remember. Yes, very common in this industry. Thank you again so much for taking the time to answer those. At this point, I think everyone has had a chance to join, so we'll go ahead and get started. I will hand it over to Josh Stiles, Senior Solutions Architect and Stratus Expert, who will give us an overview of the key functionality and use cases for Stratus.
Thank you, Virginia, for... I'm not muted, am I? I didn't
Nope, you're
check.
good. We
Okay.
hear you.
Thank you, Virginia, for the quick introduction. Like Virginia mentioned, I'm Josh Stiles. I'm a senior solutions architect here at 21CS, and Stratus N falls under my portfolio. So today we're just going to talk about why cloud object storage is important for mainframes and important for the success of mainframes in the future. And then we'll talk about Stratus and the offering and some of the benefits that you can get while using the product. And then Dan will also jump into a live demo to show you how the product works in action. So a lot of you guys, thank you again for answering those questions. It's a good baseline, like Virginia was mentioning, to see where everybody is at in their journey. And I noticed that a few people in the session today kind of have no idea or haven't started that journey of integrating cloud object storage into their mainframe platform. And that's okay too. I think cloud object storage as a whole is kind of a newer concept to ZOS and mainframes in general. But I just want to talk for a second why it's critical important to start integrating cloud object storage into our platform. And the main thing is it enhances that hybrid cloud strategy, right? A lot of companies nowadays are they have cloud mandates, or they want to implement some sort of cloud object storage or file sharing within the enterprise. And some companies even have mandates that you have to use purchase cloud object storage. So why not use cloud object storage just as another storage tier for the mainframe and really say that we're embracing a true hybrid cloud strategy? Another added benefit of integrating this with mainframes and ZOS kind of adds that third layer of resiliency beyond your traditional backups and DR sites, right? And what I mean by that is now with the cloud, that cloud environment or cloud object storage can be anywhere in the world. You could have a cloud bucket in or a cloud object storage bucket in the east coast of the United States, but then also have a bucket out in Europe or somewhere on the west coast of the states, allowing you to kind of double down on your resiliency plan. Now, we're not saying you should replace all of your other backup tools with just sending it to cloud object storage. It's more of, all right, can we take copies of those backups and have them out in cloud object storage and say, yep, I know these are protected. They won't be messed with. I can always bring them back down if something were to occur with my traditional backups. Just adding another layer to that resiliency plan. And then some of the other added benefits, reducing long-term storage costs by moving large amounts of data or transferring large amount of data to cloud object storage, and being smarter about where we store long-term data or data sets, stuff that isn't being used every day on the platform, and really take advantage of that lower cost of storage that cloud object storage offers us. And then it also simplifies things across the platform, right? It simplifies being able to integrate with other hybrid cloud applications using cloud object storage as a single repository to connect the applications in a way. So that's why it's important for us to start thinking about, all right, how can we infuse cloud object storage with our platform and really make it that, extra tier of storage for the platform? But to to have that happen, we have to think about the different transfer methods that are already out there today. And I think we fall short in some sense because FTP and SFTP, they're good. They've been around for a while. But, it requires additional setup, it requires additional servers and infrastructure. You don't have full control of the data when you use FTP, and that's something within ZOS that we like to say that we were able to pull that data back from the cloud object storage server or something of that nature. So that's where FTP kind of falls short. It also wasn't meant to handle the large amounts of transfers that we do on the daily. It was made for a different use case. So it's kind of a legacy method, and there's better ways to handle moving that data out to cloud object storage and other benefits for not using FTP for that transfer. And then you also have network attached storage, which from a resiliency standpoint introduces that single point of failure. If it's part of your corporate network, it can be exposed to ransomware or insider threats. It has a lack of immutability. Sometimes it can be hard to actually configure to move data back and forth from ZOS to these not network attached storages. So that's why, what makes sense to make it really easy and simple to open up mainframe and ZOS data out to cloud object storage and moving it safely, securely, but move it in a simple manner. And that's where Stratus comes into play. Stratus is a native ZOS software that is designed to efficiently and safely transfer data to and from cloud object storage at scale. And it's important to recognize the to and from. We're bi-directional. So anything that you send out to cloud object storage, whether it be copies of backups, whether it's storing SMF data that you have to store for 5 to 7 years because of regulations and audit requirements, you can bring that all back to the platform at any given time. You're in full control of your data, and being bi-directional allows that to happen. So what are some of the key benefits for Stratus? Well, for one, we don't require any additional infrastructure or agents to help with the transfer of this data out to cloud object storage. We're leveraging industry standard APIs to help with the transfer of that data, and it's in a more secure fashion, right? It also allows for seamless integration with any cloud object storage provider, so your AWS, Azure, Google, IBM Cloud Object Storage, or even if you are not able to use those cloud providers, you could set up an on-prem deployment as well, and Stratus would work the same way it would with those other cloud providers. As I mentioned before, you remain in full control of your data by having the bi-directional transfer of mainframe data. So anything you send out, you can bring it back at any point. You have full control. And then I think this is important too. We're not just saying take, the mainframe data, put it out there, and also just store it there for a long time. But Stratus opens up the ability for you to do code page translations. And what I mean by that is mainframe and ZOS have a specific code page. It's EBCDIC. So if other hybrid cloud applications wanted to take advantage of that data, they would have to configure their program to read EBCDIC data. Well, with Stratus, you have the option to actually translate that data to UTF-8 or ASCII so that if you wanted to share it with the rest of your enterprise or hybrid cloud applications, you have the ability to have it in a readable format for them. And then with Stratus, you can also do an automated data transfer. So we have batch jobs that you can configure with commands that you can add to already existing batch jobs. So the output is just seamlessly sent out to Cloud Object Storage at the end of its cycle. Or you could schedule a Stratus command to run every week to send data out to Cloud Object Storage. So we have a few ways of handling the transfer of the data. But I wanted to talk about at least one big use case here, and that's helping reduce tape infrastructure or the amount of data that you have on your tape infrastructure today. And that's migrating data from ML2 to MLC. I think some of you guys, you have petabytes of data sitting on your ML2, in your ML2 environment today. And how can we start being smarter about where that storage or that data is being stored, right? I mean, data is going to continue to grow. Regulations are also going to continue to get stricter around data retention. It might go up by a couple of years. And the fact that data continues to grow and regulations might continue to grow, you're going to run out of tape space at some point. So why not take some of that ML2 data, the data that never gets recalled, and put it out to cloud object storage and store it at a lower cost of storage as well. So with Stratus, it helps with finding and migrating cold, ML2 data sets on tape and moving that out to MLC and cloud object storage. The great thing is HSM retains management of the data sets, so we're not taking anything away from HSM. If you needed to recall that data back to ZOS, you can do it with ease. And we are retaining the integrity of that data set. So we're keeping the existing migration date and date last reference. And really that's key for those, the regulations and audit requirements, because if we had to remigrate that data and change the date last reference, well, you're kind of starting your whole cycle over and having to keep that data for way longer than you really needed to. And with Stratus, we have the ability to select the right data to transfer. We're not saying transfer all of your ML2 data out to MLC at once, but you can start to pick and choose what data sets or group of data sets that you want to transfer out to MLC and really be surgical about what is transferred so you feel comfortable utilizing Cloud Object Storage to store that data. So really, when you think about this, how can we be smarter about storing our cold data that we have today in our environment and really utilize that lower cost storage tier? But also the other use case is really the hybrid cloud integration of it. So being able to move any type of static data set from your ZOS environment. And this, again, allows you to unlock cloud object storage as another storage tier for mainframes. It now opens up the possibility for you to start sharing data easily across multiple sysplexes, or even open up ZOS data to the rest of your enterprise. And we're reducing the operational complexity. I mentioned before some of the legacy transfer methods of moving data between different areas within the environment. Well, utilizing cloud object storage is kind of like that single repository that you can start sending data out and pulling data down to where you need to, and that's happening in a secure fashion. We touched before about storing protected copies of data, just having that third or fourth site for resiliency and keeping backups in a secure location. And then this is probably an interesting use case to most, but with ZOS nowadays, we're leaning more into AI and having AI run on platform. But sometimes you're going to have models that you train outside of the platform as well. So how can you get those models safely back to the platform so that they can run with the Spire card or with the Telum chip? And Stratus helps with being able to move those large language models back to ZOS for you to utilize. All right, so I've kind of gone over what the product does, some of the use cases. Now I'm going to pass this over to Dan, who's going to show a quick demo of Stratus and how you can utilize it today in your environment. So I'm just going to stop sharing, hand it over to Dan.
All right. Thank you, Josh, for that intro. All right. Hi, everyone. As Josh introduced, I'm Dan Snyder. I'll be doing a walkthrough of our product, STRATUSⁿ. And can everyone see my screen? All right. Thank you. So STRATUSⁿ has two major functional components. The first are the HSM functions, which are focused on migrating HSM ML2 data to MLC, and this is accessible through option 1 on the ISBF panel shown. The second component is the hybrid cloud data management functions, which allow users to upload, download, and manage data in cloud object storage. So we'll start with the HSM functions. And the very first thing we're going to do, we have a couple of options here, but the first thing is running the STRATUSⁿ summary report. So we can select the summary report, and this will help us to start gaining an understanding of what our ML2 environment looks like. All we have to do is select option 1 in order to run the report. And then once that's been submitted, we can select option 2 to view it. And here you can see that we have a brief summary of what our ML2 environment is like. We have approximately 9,000 data sets in our ML2 environment, which is taking up around 86 gigabytes of space. So a pretty small ML2 environment here. The average age of our ML2 datasets is 3.8 years, and approximately 95% of them have never been recalled. Since we have so much data sitting on ML2 unreferenced for years, this is a great use case for our HSM migration functions to offload some of that data to cloud storage. To start gaining more insight into what our ML2 data looks like and to start preparing for migration, we can create migration groups using the simulate option. So we'll go into the simulate option, and here you can see we have a bunch of different selection criteria that we can use in order to, we have a bunch of selection criteria here that can be used to narrow down what data sets we want to migrate. So for instance, one good option is the selecting ML2 volumes less than or equal to a certain percent full. This is useful if you want to free up ML2 volumes that are underutilized. For this demo, I'll be selecting datasets that are migrated to ML2 over a year ago, and I will also be filtering by dataset name. Okay, and here I already have my dataset name filled out. You can select up to 20 dataset masks to either include or exclude from your selection. And all I have to do is back out to run, submit the job that it presents, and should be good to go. Once the simulation has been submitted, we can select the display option to view what that output is. And here we have the migration group that I just ran. As we can see, there are 282 data sets selected, and those reside on 52 ML2 volumes. We can then select that migration group to view what parameters were used in the selection, as well as some information about how Stratus processed the data. And we can also see the list of data sets, when their migration date was, and what ML2 volume they reside on. So once we have a set of migration groups that we're happy with, we can then begin to migrate them. For the purposes of keeping this demo brief, I'm not actually going to run a migration, but all we have to do is give it the name of a migration group that we just created, a cloud we want to migrate it to, and then there are various parameters for setting time limits and pacing parameters of the migration to avoid overloading your HSM environment. Now we'll move over to the hybrid cloud data management functions. These allow us to interact with cloud object storage. We have options to send, retrieve, list, and delete objects in cloud object storage. So we'll start by uploading some data sets to our cloud object environment. All we have to do is input a dataset name mask. This is the set I will be using for the demo. I have pre-configured a cloud name as well as a container to put them in. And then I can create a mask for creating the objects. So here I'll prefix them with demo 1023, and then I will add the dataset name of all the datasets that get selected to those objects. Then there are various parameters to control the behavior of STRATUSⁿ. One notable one that Josh mentioned is the ability to convert EBCDIC to UTF-8. If you're uploading data to cloud object storage for cloud applications to read them, they're almost always going to be using UTF-8 as their default encoding. So with this option, you don't have to worry about changing your cloud applications. You can just upload the data and it'll automatically be converted to UTF-8. So all I have to do is press F5 to submit. And then you can run the command in the foreground or the background. Here we'll run it in the foreground and we will wait a minute or two for the command to complete before we continue our demonstration. All right. So now we have an output telling us that 10 data sets were successfully uploaded, 0 with errors. And we can see a list of the data sets that were selected, as well as what the object name that they were uploaded to was. Now, I'll do an str list in order to display those objects that are in cloud object storage. I have the same cloud name and container name, and I will set the prefix to the prefix I set on the upload. And just like that, we get a list of the objects that were uploaded. And by selecting one of these, we can then view more detailed metadata about that specific object, primarily the original dataset name, as well as, there we go, as well as the allocation information for that dataset, which is used during retrieval. So I will take this dataset name, my lorem ipsum dataset, and I'll copy that dataset name in order to retrieve it. So we can go over to str return and paste the dataset name that we have. Here again, we have a couple different parameters for the retrieval. One thing I'm going to do is append a low-level qualifier to the returned dataset. In this case, it's just going to be .returned. You do have the option to replace the existing ZOS dataset, or you can append a low-level qualifier if you want to maintain the original and just see what the updates were. So I'll press F5 to submit once again. And just like that, our lorem ipsum dataset has been retrieved. We can go over here. This is the original dataset. We can view this just to see what its contents were originally. If I refresh the list, now we have our returned dataset as well. The contents are perfectly intact. There we go. So now the last part of the demonstration I'll show is issuing a delete of a cloud object. By selecting option 6, we can do the exact same thing, pasting in the dataset name, or the cloud object name, my apologies. Clicking F5 to submit, and waiting for that command to complete. Man, I guess cloud object storage is a little sleepy this morning too. There we go. And as you can see, our lorem ipsum object has been successfully deleted. And one last thing is we will issue a str list one more time just to confirm that that object is no longer in our cloud storage. And as you can see, there is no lorem ipsum in our object storage anymore. So that about wraps up my demonstration. This demo has been showing you how to use STRATUSⁿ through ISPF panels, but commands can also be executed through batch jobs, as Josh mentioned, which really enables easy automation. So thank you everyone for your time. I'll hand it back over to Josh now.
Great. Thank you, Dan, for walking through that quick demonstration, and I hope everybody was able to see the value of being able to use this, especially on the HSM ML2 side, and being able to, potentially move some of that data out to MLC and free up some space. So speaking of ML2, Virginia did mention this beforehand a little bit, teasing the fact that we have something to help with understanding your environment. So if you're looking to at least get started and understand what's going on within your HSM ML2 environment, how much data that you have residing there, how much has never been recalled before, we can start you off with a free assessment. And basically all ML2 Recon is going to do is go into your control data set and pull out or read your control data set and just pull out relevant information so that you can at least see, hey, this is my oldest ML2 data set. This is the stuff that has never been recalled before, and really open up the possibilities to see the return on investment of moving some of that data out to cloud object storage and start freeing up some of your tape drives. So Virginia, I'll hand it back over to you. You can tell them how they can get in contact.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you again, Josh and Dan, for sharing your expertise with us and giving us a closer look at Stratus. We hope today's session just helped you to see the value that Stratus can bring to your organization, not only in simplifying data management and enabling seamless transfers between your mainframe and the cloud, but also in delivering potential significant cost savings by freeing up tape space and moving ML2 data to cloud object storage. Really appreciate you spending your time with us and hope you found it valuable. We will be following up with each of you individually, but if you're ready to discuss Stratus further, if you'd like to run the ML2 Recon utility to access that information about your ML2 environment, definitely, please don't wait. You can send me an email directly. My email it's Virginia, VIRGINIA .Rogers, RODGERS @21cs.com. And we'd love to get started on that journey with you. Again, thank you for joining us and being a part of this mainframe community. And we look forward to connecting with you soon and hope to see you on our next 21CS webinar.